All right. Hey, everybody. How are we doing? Yeah? It's been a good day so far, and I'm thrilled to have some of my favorite humans on stage today. And we're going to talk about agent to agent and the shift and the ability to prepare and what they've been seeing in their day-to-day lives as they've been shifting to a more focused on an LLM initiative. And so I am excited to have the team do a quick little intro. I'll introduce myself. You'll see our face in just a moment. My name is Amera, Khalil. I lead the account management organization. I'm director of sales for both BigCommerce and Feedonomics at the Commerce. And I'm going to pass over to Owen.
I'm Owen Spencer, Senior Director of Direct-to-Consumer Applications and AI Enablement at Revelyst.
Tari Huddleston, I head up all of our global efforts across digital and e-commerce for Revelyst.
Paul Mansour, I lead LLM marketing at Dell Technologies.
Jenna Mordaga, Senior Director of Search and Feeds at Tapestry.
All right, so we have an incredible amount of questions today, and I'm excited to be able to talk through each one of their own experiences. So we have kind of a few options that we're going to start talking through, and then each one of these panelists are going to talk about their lived experience, knowing that they have specific needs at each one of their brands. So you'll learn a little bit more about each one of their day-to-day operations as they go through answering these questions. So I'll start, and this question is directed to you, Paul. How are you thinking about the shift from traditional B2C shopping to agentic AI-powered discovery? And what is the opportunity? What is the risk that you see for your brand?
Great question. So, folks, the way that I think about it is when we look at the calendar right now, it says 2025. I don't think it's 2025. I think we're all time travelers. I think it's 1995, and the World Wide Web is 2 years old. That's where we're at right now. There's a paradigm shift happening with the World Wide Web. And in my role, I'm responsible for helping Dell look around those corners. And what I see is everything is changing. When we think of the classic ways that at Dell our customers are engaging and discovering our products, solutions, and services, that's changing. Yep. When we think of classic search, scrolling through links, classic web browsing, classic paid search, those channels aren't necessarily going away or affiliate marketing, but they're evolving. When our customers are turning to agentic tools and they're asking and discovering products and our products and services, they're being given the answer. So we have to make sure that we are where we were in 1996 when we launched Dell.com. We want to be one of the first. We want to be one of the best, and we have to be where our customers are. So the message I have is all the previous paradigm for how we think or how you think about your customers are going to discover you. Keep that playbook, but it's time to open up a completely new book.
Fantastic. I love that you bring that up because when we were talking about this, it's like an interesting shift to consider. This is a big pivotal change, and there are a lot of things, as we were all talking behind scenes, that the marketers have been doing for years, and so it's being able to leverage and pull them all together. So with this agentic shift in our behaviors, we know that data is now our new storefront, and it's going to become more incredibly important than ever before to make sure that you have tight data, structured data, unstructured data, and know where everything lives in one central spot. And so this question is to go ahead and kind of lean into the fact that we know that data is the new important thing to not obsess over, but we tend to obsess over some things when it comes to optimization and getting the better return on our investment. So I'd be interested to understand what steps you have done to improve and enrich your product catalog for AI readiness. And, Tari, that would be a fantastic question for the Revelyst team.
Yeah, I would say that, I'm going to actually leave it over to our technical side too as well. So we're going to kind of partner together on this answer. But, I think the first part for us was just really being able to go in and look and understand what we had that was available to us and where we needed to enhance that data. And then from there, be able to figure out where we could be able to start to tap into and be able to utilize that information. So Owen has actually done a phenomenal amount of work for us in being able to kind of get that implementation done. So I'm going to actually pivot to him to be able to share a little bit more about giving the accolades for what really he's been able to put in place for us.
Awesome. For us, we've been a Feedonomics customer for a while, so we had a really tight grasp on our structured data. So we had a really strong practice in place for that already. Now we started to identify where is there data that we can leverage and how do we get it into the feed? And so partnering with Feedonomics, one of the cool things, we were part of the Perplexity pilot program, so we're working really closely with Feedonomics and Perplexity. And make no mistake about it, this world is being developed in real time, right? So when we're talking about the data that's going to Perplexity, they're also figuring out what that looks like and how it's going to be used. A couple of key areas for us that we've really leaned into is Revelyst is a brand of outdoor companies. And for us, we have a lot of technical products. So there's a lot of research that happens For us, we've been surfacing things like technical product videos, ratings and reviews, size guides, bringing all of that, different how to purchase guides, bringing all of that into unstructured data fields that we now include in our feed that goes to Feedonomics and can be surfaced out to the different LLMs. And I think both Jenna and Paul, you guys are also doing some cool work with unstructured data as well.
Yeah, definitely. We have done a ton of work with FAQs and other content on our PDPs, and I have to give it up to the entire Tapestry team who's been working on this for months and months at this point. So we really feel like we're well prepared for some of these unstructured data points to really start utilizing them now in a bigger and better way.
Yeah, team, when we think about data at Dell, and we have a fantastic partnership with Feedonomics, and they're always ahead of the curve with Dell. We think about tech specs and our promotional price and our starting at price point, and we have complex products, and all of that data we typically will send through our product feed to the traditional platforms that we advertise on. But what we're seeing now is what we consider data is really changing, right? It's our case studies, our personas, our audience data. There's so much at Dell that we arm our really large enterprise and SMB sales teams to go sit down and have conversations about our products. But now that we're moving towards this agentic world, how do we take all that's offline and digitize it? Because what we see on Dell.com, and when you visit the site, you'll see this much about our products. But in reality, we know way, way more about it. And now we have to figure out how to make that into an agentic process.
It's a really cool conversation to sit up here with you all and understand the intricacies of each one of your brands, and that you come to the table as the resident expert, right? And we can talk through these initiatives and understand that this is how the winds are shifting, and this seems interesting to us, but then to gauge if it's interesting to you and to your company, and then also to bring in all of the right people to gather the unstructured data, the things that you traditionally weren't sending to Feedonomics, because that's not typically how you would send a feed to power a Google. And so, one of the things is talking about where we're at in the current ecosystem, and you can see on the slide that there is the agent to merchant. We're about in between, and so these folks are preparing for what good looks like amidst a change, and the change is inevitable. And I really love that you brought up the unstructured data, because that's been a buzzword and a topic of the century, right? Like, what is unstructured data? And so that said, unstructured content like reviews, FAQs, fit guides, blog posts, it's becoming so important for context. And help us understand how you're leveraging that content and what has been sort of the gathering process in getting that information in one centralized spot. And I'll pass this one to Owen.
Yeah, so for us, it's looking at kind of like with AI, there's so many things you can be doing right now. I think it's also good to kind of like pause and say, should I be doing this? And so you could throw a bunch of data out there, but if that data is not relevant and it's not supporting the overall objective of your brand and the end user, I think that's where a little bit of like your subject matter expert lens has to come in and say, okay, what would somebody who is looking for a product here? An example from our brand is we sell a lot of helmets. Helmets are really hard to buy online. They have lots of different features, different sizing. And so for us, as a brand, we want to get the user to the right helmet. We want to make sure we have lower return rates. We want to figure out all of that. So for us, we looked at and said, okay, what are the pieces of content that we've already created, that we've already started to make? Yeah. How do we leverage these things? So we're taking those product technical videos, we're taking those guides, we're taking the how to care for your helmet page. And then, in true 2025 fashion, what we're doing is we're actually having AI scrape that data. And so I was super lucky to get in early on Comet, which is Perplexity's new agentic browser, which I think is a whole other can of worms that can be unpacked when we get there. But I'm actually using that within our teams to run processes, to scrape data from our different products, put that into an unstructured format where we can take out some of the formatting pieces, get it into a single field. And now we just continue to grow our product attribution model where we say, okay, 2 months ago, we didn't have a field on our product that was product guides, rating and review summaries, video transcript. Now we do. So we continue to build that up. And then basically, as fast as we can build them, Feedonomics has been there to ingest it. But it is a process, and it's not to be sugarcoated. Like gathering that data, getting it formatted into your feed is something that you need to allocate resources for. But it's something that I don't think anybody should be waiting for their permission to do. You should be doing that now, so that as some of these things are figured out, as some of these programs open up, you and your brand are prepared.
Yeah, and I think it's really interesting for Tapestry too, and for me specifically as a performance marketer, where we think about, lower funnel keywords, people who are ready to buy. Now it's like, what content do we have for the awareness stage, and like people who are asking questions, like for our FAQs, like how do I take care of a bag? What is this bag made out of? Not just where can I purchase it, and figuring out how, we create content about that to make sure that Coach or Kate Spade is top of mind when people are just starting to look for bags, or what is the best bag for a party that goes with the black dress, et cetera, and making sure we have all of those data points in Feedonomics.
Yeah, and Paul, you mentioned something backstage just about bringing in different folks from your internal teams that maybe help you gather that unstructured data, right? Or help you gather an understanding of why this is important. And so in a lot of cases, it's not even just about the unstructured data, though that's very important. It's about getting the opportunity from the broader business to lean in and understand the importance and the value and why that should be accessible, or how quickly it needs to be accessible to deliver on a planned LLM strategy and all of that. So you're kind of bringing in different people. Please talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, exactly. So the way that I'm thinking about data in content is we want it to be a competitive advantage. And that would be my recommendation to you. Yes, data's always matter for the product feed. And we think about all the content that we have on Dell.com and programmatic display and programmatic video, and that's all really important. But in this agentic present and future, how do we tell the story through data and content better than our competitors? How do we make that a competitive advantage? And the way that I've approached it at Dell is, this isn't an SEO or a search issue or just digital marketing. I've tried to pull together folks from around the company, different areas that may traditionally not be involved in digital marketing or driving online discovery and ultimately online conversions. So my recommendation is for all of us here is, how do we continue to bring these smartest folks from around your organization into one room to say, hey, there's this paradigm shift that's happening with the World Wide Web. We need to solve it, and we need input from everybody to help us make sense of what's changing.
Yeah.
To piggyback on that a little bit, one of the things that I think I've seen a lot of benefit with our teams is starting to open up the line of communication about releasing things that we held tightly before, right? We're really stuck in e-commerce, this is the way that you do the things, and this is how it's been. So I think kind of reimagining or giving yourself kind of the openness to think about what will digital commerce look like, and how do we maybe rethink some of the ways that we approach business, because it's from the data perspective, but it's also for us, we're brand folks, so we want, the brand is represented. That's not going anywhere. So how do we make sure that our brand shows up properly in these different channels, and how are we positioning ourselves for multi-channel shopping, which is this. It's the A to B, it's the A to A, it's the agentic browsers, it's all that's going to continue to grow. And so I think just being less sure in the things that you've always been sure about.
I love that. It's a metaphor for life, isn't it?
Exactly.
Yeah.
If I could, I would just add to that, though. I think that the benefits that you get with this allow you to be able to actually have conversations across your organization, so that to Paul's point, I'm having conversations with finance because there's certain investment that I want to be able to have with that. But being able to share with them that this is an opportunity for us to get some efficiencies and drive some additional opportunities in reducing our costs in some areas where I'm able to invest in others. So it's allowing us to be able to really educate across the organization and being able to get this little bit of a groundswell. And we're seeing that right now within our organization. I'll be honest with you, Owen's position is newly created. The fact that he actually has AI in his title is phenomenal. So it's one where we're constantly trying to reinvent this opportunity across the organization and get that education, so that it's a very simple conversation. When we say we want to go do, people go, oh, I understand why.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the education is such an important piece. We're actually kicking off a task force for AI search specifically, and everybody wants to be involved. And the good thing about everyone being involved in the education piece is we're all starting from the same page. This is all new. I think, Paul, you said it earlier, it's 1995 all over again. We all have to learn together and figure out how to collaborate to push our businesses forward.
I think it's such a good dovetail in the broader picture of agentic search, right? This is initiative. There is the ability to shift the consumer's behavior, because now I'm searching on Perplexity for anything that I buy, right? Before I called my friend Owen and said, hey, what kind of helmet should I get? I'm asking Perplexity. And
They'll give you a better answer.
Very in line. But it was a really interesting experience, and I'm sure many of you in the audience have done this, where you're going on to a chat or OpenAI, all of the places to use, to change your human behavior, right? You're not going to Google to ask the thing, you're asking the AI agent to help you. And so preparing all this unstructured data, and also just having the ability to know where all the things are in one spot also is a really good exercise to do internally, right? So that you have the opportunities of efficiencies. And many of the folks who have used Feedonomics in this room, and especially on this stage, they have a centralized point of contact who's kind of their truth, their hub of information, who's helping this communication and back and forth. And I think it's important to highlight when we talk about the strategy, it's not just pushing a button and sending a feed, it's having the humans help support and bring in the overall vision. And I loved what you said, Owen, it's like, just because you have the data doesn't mean you should send it, right? Yeah. And that's just thinking critically about all of the things that your business can do to be efficient, to drive efficiencies internally, but also externally, and ultimately be where everyone is changing their consumer behavior to be, right? And that's important for this group, especially for all the brands on the stage. So when it comes to optimization, that's kind of a buzzword as well too, right? People say optimize all the time. But optimization, it'll look a little bit different when you're trying to not just be high ranking in search. So help me understand what you all are doing to sit not only effectively, but to look differently when we're talking about Agentic and the initiatives. And I'm gonna pass that one to Paul to start.
Well, you know, when we think about optimization with classic search or classic programmatic display or video, it's about being present and then getting a click through to Dell.com or to your site, where then you tell that story. But with these LLM platforms and AI discovery, we have to optimize to tell the story within the platform. They're not gonna necessarily click through and come to Dell immediately. They're gonna stay in platform, they're gonna do their research, so we have to make sure that we're not just present, but that we're present in the right way. Are we communicating our value proposition? Are we communicating why we think we're the best solution in the industry for whether you're a gamer or a student, or you're looking for a business PC or server? How are we communicating that value prop? How is our brand coming through? Not just a rank or result or simply a checkbox saying, hey, we're present.
I love that. I think it's an important thing to bring up that you have to tell your brand a story over and over and over again. And even just a name like Dell. Many of us know Dell, right? But now it's shifting the gears and having the story be communicated that you all live, that is your brand that you're representing every day. I know, Owen, you have a really good kind of dovetail to the Fox brand, right? Yep. And talking through that. And please share, this is the time.
Yeah, and so for us, and I think we're talking about this a little bit backstage, is like, optimization that we're doing now, some of that is just building on things that we've already done, right? So for us, again, luckily we had a feed practice already in place, and so we're building on that. But some of the other things that we're seeing is, the unstructured data is content at the end of the day, right? So then that's really having that tight relationship with your content team, with your brand team, with your product team to understand what kind of content are we creating, what's that gonna look like, and how does that get into these additional channels, along with the education piece so that people understand why that content matters. But it's also really interesting to see things like, well-structured data on your site, accessibility markup, all that stuff matters. And actually, when you see these agents working through these systems, it's more important than ever. And so continuing to kind of you don't abandon those other things. This is like a yes and moment where we're kind of building on that. And I think not hesitating too much, really understanding where we kind of want to lean in a little bit harder, but just willing to explore and kind of see where things take us.
Yeah.
I think oh, sorry.
No, go ahead, Dana.
What underpins all of that is the measurement piece, is how do we measure the brand storytelling, the data that's on our page that, we're showing up for people, and it's not GA4 last click anymore, it's brand visibility, brand mentions, how are we showing up in these LLMs? And that is something new I think that we all have to explore to figure out how we're gonna do that piece as well.
Yeah, and then it's optimizing too all that information as you get back, right?
Yep.
So as the consumer is engaging and you understand more about your consumer and they're understanding more about you, is being able to figure out how you can share that. So for example, it's sharing it with our product development teams, right? What is it that is really important to our consumers that they're searching on or they're looking for with that product, and how do we start to elevate that? Working with our marketing teams in order to start to have that conversation across it with a brand perspective as well. And then ultimately also, it's tapping into the other sources that we have within the organization to also use the same services. Our customer service teams are now, AI is their best partner.
Right.
It's helping them be able to figure out how to craft those conversations with our customers that are being asked, but then also get that information of what the consumers are asking and turn around and be proactive in how our communications that we're having with our customers as well.
Yeah.
I really like the way you articulated the measurement plan, because I think that really hits what this is right on the head. Is this search marketing? Sure. Is it content marketing? Yes. Is it e-commerce marketing?
Yes.
Is it upper funnel, mid funnel, convert? All the above. It's everything, and we've got to measure everything, and we've got to have a really wide aperture to make sure that there's no missteps.
And there's a lot of preparation, right? Like on the screen, there's the levels of maturity, and it doesn't mean that you have to be fully mature, right, to the full level 5 right away. I think that that's a bit of a tall order. It's doing the discovery and knowing that you're going to have to get somewhere eventually, and then creating the environment where you're tapping the right folks. I think, backstage we were talking about, you are all the experts at each of your companies, right? You know the right person to go to, you know how long the process is gonna take, you know why you should be talking about the opportunity, the broader revenue that it can drive in the bigger picture, and have to be able to convey that to get everybody together, but then get to that level 5, I think is it's a lot of work. It's not an easy job, but it's an incredible opportunity to understand where things live that maybe you weren't thinking about before. And Jenna, you said it so nicely, that this is now, like, this is your time to shine, right? Yes. You've had this information. This is what you do, right, as a marketer. And so now you get the opportunity to stand very strong and have a recommendation and elaborate on where things live, or why you track it in a certain way, or why they should be considering this type of KPI when measuring performance.
Yeah, and I think, everyone knows that the feed is important, the data in the feed, our relationship with Feedonomics, that's important. Like, oh, that's cool. But now it's really cool, guys. Like now, like I said, it's our time to shine and utilize that, like the coolness and the visibility to get the resources that we need to get some of these things actually done. Yeah, it's, you are the cool kid. You've always been a cool kid to me. But getting an opportunity to sit and also then create a little bit of a communication where you're providing recommendations, right? Like I think about Revelyst. You have many brands, and I imagine you're not sending, well, maybe you are. You tell me, Owen and Tari. But you're testing with certain brands in different markets and different experiences. But you're also going to be able to share like learning, and same for Tapestry and for Dell. I mean, Dell is a global company, right? And though you are one brand, you are many sub-brands within the different divisions and how you communicate. So I think it's also very unique to be able to maybe talk a little bit about how you're planning that strategy when you're rolling out this initiative for a portfolio of multiple brands or regions or locales.
Yeah, well, I think the region one is that we were just talking about this is a great one to kind of keep in focus here. Is what we're seeing is, what's happening in the US and what's happening in Europe and what's happening in Asia are very different stories right now. And so what we're trying to do is understand where we can action things now, where we can learn from those strategies, and put us in a position where we'll be able to scale that going forward. So when we look at everything that we're doing within, maybe an individual brand within an individual region, to stay focused as we're executing, we're learning from all that. We're building processes. We're getting our reps in on where are we getting that unstructured data from? How do we streamline that process? How do we reduce the overhead it takes to gather and optimize that data? And so at this point, it's changing so quickly, and so it's just kind of like testing, analyzing, but also be thinking about what's happening out in the future. Okay, if I needed to scale this, what would that look like? And luckily, for us at Revelyst, we've gone through a lot of growth over the past 3 years. Revelyst is only a few years old at this point. Yeah. And so for us, we're well versed in scaling and consolidating and making sure that we can roll things out quickly. Yeah. So we've already got kind of that muscle memory in place, and now we're taking that and we're applying it to Agentic.
Yeah. I remember when I first spoke with Tari actually about consolidation and just some of the initiatives that, from your lens, how you have to think about the broader picture and consolidating. I imagine it's probably very helpful to have a vision of something like this, right? Whether you're fully at level 5 or if you're at level 2 or you have an initiative that you want to be on an LLM, but maybe you're not there yet. But having that in your mind, in the forefront when you're thinking about how you do consolidate, how you merge multiple brands, how you drive efficiencies internally, I can imagine that's some tough conversations, but you have to be able to know what the roadmap looks like, right? That's why many of us are excited to understand the roadmap that we saw here, so then match it to your goals as you're planning for the next year.
Yeah, our brands are, the maturity level for across the brands within this space is not all equal. Yep. And we know that, right? There are, for example, we have one brand which we literally call it our pinnacle brand. We test and learn constantly with that brand. It's ingrained in that brand and how it acts, not only with the consumer, but everywhere else that we kind of live across the organization. And what we do is we're constantly reiterating. It's able to act at what we call the speed of retail. Yeah. Some of our other brands are a little slower inside that because we're trying to get everybody all in the same pace. But it allows us to be able to really be able to drill in, optimize, look at what we can do, and then as Owen said, it's reiterate over and over again, right? There's not a linear, there's multiple streams that are happening at the same time across the organization to be able to kind of keep this kind of rolling going through. But I will say this is probably the fastest rolling that we have across the organization is within this one concentration than we have across anything else.
That's
Yeah.
awesome. I'm sad to have to close up, but I have been told I need to not go over. So with that, I'm going to ask the panelists for some advice to offer the audience. And for those that are in the room and that they're maybe considering their agentic strategy, or when they're looking at maybe migrating to an LLM and discussing what that looks like internally, each one of you, please tell us what you would recommend as a smart first step in preparing for agentic commerce. And I'll start with you, Owen.
Yeah, I mean, my biggest advice right now is like move quickly. This is moving super fast. Fox Racing has a deep history within motocross, and in motocross there's this concept of the whole shot, which is the rider that gets out first is most likely to end in first. And so that's really what we're focusing on. We're saying, like, how do we light the fire internally and move as quickly as we can, because the winners over the next few years are being defined right now. And if you wait until this is all figured out, it's going to be too late. So, understand that some of the things you do won't be perfect. Give yourself the grace to make mistakes. I think bringing in the subject matter experts from across the organization and make sure that you're moving as a unit is really going to be supportive of that. But yeah, move quickly, because things are moving at a speed we've never seen before.
I would say be curious. Educate yourself, and it is constantly changing. So don't let yourself be overwhelmed by all the information you've got out there available to you, but look at, just be curious and start to kind of understand. Drill in, take a look. I mean, I'm constantly out there looking at new experiences. How is everybody else using this? What's going on? Be curious, download, be able to experience, just get in there firsthand. It's like when social media launched, right? Everyone was like, oh God, Facebook, what is that?
Yeah.
Everyone got an account, right? We all kind of got in there, we figured it out, and then we realized we don't want to be on there anymore. But it's just be curious, understand what you don't understand right now, and get in there, just kind of educate yourself a little bit about it.
Fantastic.
I'll touch on what I mentioned earlier. Get your best people in a room, even folks that traditionally you may not think of as having a role in search and discovery. They'll have something to contribute, and you need to get your best people in a room to figure this out. This is new. There's not a playbook. There's not a lot of case studies on how to make this work. And when you get your best people in the room, what I've done at Dell is that's me ringing up Feedonomics, and they'll be the first to tell you that. I'm pressing them and saying, okay, well, help connect it to the platforms. Can we do this? Can we do that? What are they saying? Can we go faster? Can we do more? That's part of it. Your technology partners, your agency partners, your internal teams. Get everyone in a room to try to help you make sense of what's changing.
Yep, and I said it earlier, use the excitement and the visibility to get the resources that you need from the organization to get these people in a room with you and say, like, hey, this is kind of a big deal, guys.
Yeah, it's a huge deal. I love that. This is really great. I would also say that we appreciate you taking the time to communicate with your Feedonomics and BigCommerce team, because that allows us to help move the needle and be there. And so, not that I'm going to answer my own question, but communicate to the teams that are supporting you so we know what your initiatives are is a really helpful way for us to be a good partner to you. But with that, let's give a round of applause to our panelists for showing up today. Thank you so much.